Objectives: solving geometry problems, solving consecutive integer problems, writing an equation in X that model the conditions.
Solving consecutive integer problems. Logical path. In the beginning, it will be introduction to consecutive integers. After that, we will look into summary where variables can be in use. And only after that, we will talk about how to write an equation in X that model the conditions, practically how to solve problem involving consecutive integers.
Consecutive integer. If you show a real number line, and then on real number line we can see integers negative and positive, and we would call them consecutive integers. They're in order. Now, if we show only -6, -4, -2, 0, 2, 4, and so on, you call them consecutive even integers because we show only even numbers. Next group would be -5, -3, -1, 1, 3, 5, and so on. You call them consecutive odd integers. So now, as you see, we have these three groups: consecutive integers, all of them, then consecutive even integers, just even numbers, and consecutive odd integers. No fractions, no decimals, no irrationals. If someone would say two consecutive integers, as example, you can see 3 and 4. It can be 5 and 6, or it can be 100, 101. And when solving consecutive integer problems, then we have to mark as a x first integer, and then second integer would be x and 1, because they're consecutive, difference between just one unit. If you will see words two consecutive even integers, that means it can be any two even whole number, or it can be negative numbers, integers, like example 2 and 4, or it can be 10 and 12, or -6 and -4, and so on. When solving consecutive integer problems, if we let x to be the first integer, then second number would be x and +2, because difference between two consecutive even integers, just 2 units. Two consecutive odd integers means that here is two integers and they're supposed to be odd numbers. Like example 3 and 5, like 9 and 11, like 15 and 17, like -5 and -3, and so on. When solving consecutive integer problems, if we let x to be the first integer, then the second integer would be x and +2, because difference between two consecutive odd integers is just 2 units. Next example, show 3 consecutive integers. And here is 3, 4, and 5. It can be -6, -5, -4. Or it can be -1, 0, and 1. 3 integers in order. And when solving consecutive integer problems, if we x marked as a first integer, then 3 consecutive integers are x, this is the first, x and +1 for second, and x and +2 for the third. Next example, show 3 consecutive even integers, because we have 0 first integer, 2, and then 4. All of them are even, and difference between is 2 units. So when solving consecutive integer problems, if we let x to be the first integer, then x is the first integer, second integer would be x and +2, and the third integer would be x and +4. Next example is 3 consecutive odd integers. As example, you can see 1, 3, and 5. Difference between 1 and 3 is 2 units. Difference between 3 and 5 is 2 units. But difference between 1 and 5 is 4 units. This is why, when solving consecutive integer problems, if we let x to be the first integer, then 3 consecutive odd integers are x is first, x and +2 or just x plus 2 is second, and x and +4 or x plus 4 is the third. Now, summary. 2 consecutive integers. Any 2 whole numbers in order, or it can be negative integers, like 3 and 4, like -4 and -3. And when solving consecutive integers problems, if we let x to be the first integer, then 2 consecutive integers are x and +1 or x plus 1. 2 consecutive even integer, like 4 and 6, or we can show them as a x and x plus 2. 2 consecutive odd integer, like 3 and 5, we can show them as x and x plus 2, the same as even integers. 3 consecutive integer, 3, 4, 5, or it can be x plus 1, and x plus 2. 3 consecutive even integers, 0, 2, 4, and we can show them as a x plus 2, and x plus 4. 3 consecutive odd integers, like 1, 3, and 5, you can show as x plus 2, and x plus 4, the same as 3 consecutive even integers.
Solving word problems. Most word problems require equations. Let's talk about logical path for solving word problems. You have to read problem entirely. Get a feel for the whole problem. It's important to understand what the problem is asking, what exactly is the question you need to answer. After that, let's talk about first step analysis. You have to pick a variable to stand for unknowns, clearly labeling these variables with what they stand for. After that, read the problem again in order to recognize quantities and the relations between them, between numerical values and variables. Look for keywords. After that, you will be ready to translate the word problems into equation with variables. And then you have to solve this problem. It's important to check your work as you go, and after you finish, you make sure you are getting the result that makes sense. And finally, you're ready to write the answer. But please remember, to really learn how to do word problems, you have to practice more and more and more and more.
Now practical approach, problem number 1. Find two consecutive odd integers such that their sum is 44. Analysis. Let x to be the first integer. Then x plus 2 is the second integer. And we know that first integer and second integer supposed to be 44 if we add them. Now we're ready to write out an equation. So the first integer is x, second integer is x plus 2, and together they're supposed to be 44. Now we just need to solve an equation, combining like terms, 1x and one more, 2x. Then moving positive 2 on opposite side, separate terms with variable and constant. So positive 44 and negative 2 is 42. We are looking for 1x. We have two of them, so we have to divide it by 2, and x would be 21. But then checking. We have to replace x's in our original equation by 21 and check is it true or not. 21, 21 and 2, it's really 44. So now we can show the answer. The first integer is 21 and second integer would be 2 units greater, so it will be just 23. Problem number 2. Find 3 consecutive even integers such that the sum of the second and the third is equal to the first. So we are looking for 3 consecutive even integers. Analysis. The key with this problem is noticing the word even, which tells us to add 2, not 1, to each number in our representation. Let x to be the first integer, then second integer would be x plus 2, and third integer would be x plus 4. Now we know that second integer and third integer equals first integer, so we are ready to write out an equation. Second integer is x plus 2, third integer is x plus 4, and all of this equals to the first integer, just x. Now we need to solve an equation. Combining like terms, it will be 2x and positive 6 equal to x. Now separating terms with variable and constant terms, we'll have 2x and negative 1x on the left and negative 6 on the right. And x is negative 6. Now checking, we have to replace all x's in our original equation by negative 6 and check is left side equal to right side or not. Combine like terms on the left and you will see that negative 6 equals negative 6. Write in the answer. The first integer is negative 6. Second would be negative 6 plus 2, which is negative 4. And third would be negative 6 and plus 4 is negative 2. Problem number 3. Find 3 consecutive integers such that the sum of the second and third is equal to the first. Analysis. So let x to be the first integer. So second would be x plus 1, because we are just talking about 3 consecutive integers. And the third would be x plus 2. And we know that second integer and third integer equals, if you add them, equals to the first integer. So now we're ready to write out an equation. Second integer is just x plus 1. Third integer would be x plus 2. We are adding them, and the result is supposed to be first integer, x. Now we need to solve this equation. 1x and 1x, like terms combined, it will be 2x, and then constant terms 1 and 2, it will be 3. Now separating terms with variable and constant terms, we will have 2x and negative 1x equals negative 3. So x is negative 3. Checking. We have to replace all x's in our original equation by negative 3 and check, is left side equal to right side? Yes, it is. Now we can write the answer. So the first integer is negative 3. Second would be negative 3 plus 1 equals negative 2. And the third integer would be negative 3 plus 2, which is negative 1. Writing an equation in x that models the conditions. The length of a rectangular room is 8 feet longer than twice the width. If the room perimeter is 136 feet, what are the room's dimensions? So we are talking about rectangle, and question is length and width of rectangle. We don't know length, we don't know width, but we do know relations between them, because length is 8 feet longer than twice the width. So we have to mark width as a variable x, and then length would be 2 times x and positive 8, because length is twice the width and 8 feet longer in addition. We are talking about perimeter of the room, which is 136 feet, but perimeter of a rectangle is 2 times length and 2 times width, and room's perimeter is 136 feet. So now we are ready to show an equation. 136 we replace for perimeter, and then 2 times length, 2 times parenthesis 2x and positive 8, and then 2 times width would be just 2 times x. Now we have to solve the equation, so we have to remove parenthesis, distributive property, 2 times 2x and 2 times 8. We will have 2 times 2x would be positive 4x, and 2 times 8 would be positive 16. Now let's simplify like terms, because 4x and 2x will be 6x. Now we have to separate terms with variable and constant terms. So we are moving 16 from the right to the left, and it's becoming negative 16. Simplify one more time. 136 and negative 16 would be just 120. We are looking for 1x. We have 6 of them, so we have to divide it both sides by 6 and simplify. 120 divided by 6, x is just 20. Now checking. We have to replace in our original equation x by 120 and check Is left side equal to right side? Use a calculator and you'll see yes. And then write the answer. So width is 20 feet and length would be 2 times 20 and positive 8, which is 48 feet. Example number 2, word problem. During a road trip, Robert drove 1/3 the distance that David drove. Mark drives 18 miles more than David drove. The total distance they drove on the trip was 548 miles. The question is, how many miles did each person drive? So, how many miles Robert drive? How many miles Dave drive? And how many miles Mark drives? The first step is analysis. Let's look what we have. Robert drove 1/3 the distance that David drove. And Mark drives 18 more miles than Dave drove. So the distance what Dave drove is the center of this problem, because everything else we have to compare with that particular distance. So let's mark distance which Dave drove as a x. Then distance for Robert would be 1/3 of x, because Robert drove 1/3 the distance that Dave drove. And then for Mark it will be 18 miles more than David, so it will be x and positive 18. And then the total distance they drove on this trip was 548 miles. Now we are ready to write and solve an equation. It will be 1/3 of x and positive 1x and positive 1x and positive 18 equals 548. Let's simplify 1x and 1x into 2x. Now we want to clear fraction, so the least common denominator is 3, and we multiply each piece on both sides by 3. And we have to simplify. For the first term, 3 over 3 is just 1. Result would be 1 positive x and positive 6x and positive 54 is 1644. 1x and 6x we can combine their like terms into 7x. And now we are ready to separate terms with variable and constant terms, so we can move positive 54 from the left to the right. And on the right side it will be negative 54. Simplifying, and now we have 7x is 1590. We are looking for 1x, so we have to divide it by 7 both sides, and we will have x approximately 227. Now checking. We have to replace all x's in our original equation by 227 and check, is left side equal to right side or not. Yes, it's practically equal, because we had to round the value for x, so our answer is not exact. And next step would be, we have to write out the answer. So the first, David. Distance for David is 227 miles. Distance for Robert is 76 miles. And distance for Mark is 245 miles.
While being abroad, Vlad arranged his local long-distance phone service. He paid $64 for 1 month, where $15 was a basic fee, plus 5 cents per minute for all calls. How many minutes on phone calls can he make? We are looking for number of minutes. Analysis. What do we know? Basic fee in dollars is 15. Plus, he has to pay 5 cents per minute or 500 in dollars. Time in minute we are looking for. This is why we have to mark as a X. Total amount of money what he paid is 64. Now we are ready to write and solve an equation. 15 plus 500 times X equals 64. 15 is basic fee. 500 times X, this is what he has to pay for his calls in addition, and 64 is total cost. Now we are looking for X. We have to move 15 from the left to the right in order to isolate term with X. When you are moving from the left to the right, you have to change sign. So as a result, it would be 64 and negative 15, result is 49. Now we have an equation, 500 times X equals 49. We are looking for 1X. This is why we have to divide both sides of this equation by 500 and simplify. Use your calculator and you will see that X is 980. Checking. In our original equation, we have to replace X for 980 and check is left side equal to right or not. Yes. If you simplify using your calculator, you will see 64 equals 64. Now we can write the answer. Number of minutes is 980 or 980 minutes. While being abroad, Vlad arranged his internet service. He paid $34.20 for 2 months, where $9 per month was a basic fee plus 3 cents per minute for being online. How many minutes can he spend online during that time? So we are looking for number of minutes. Analysis. Basic fee for 2-month period will be 2 times 9, where 9 is basic fee for 1 month. For being online, he has to pay 3 cents per minute. In dollars, it would be 300 per minute. Time in minutes, this is what we are looking for. We have to mark as an X. And total amount, total cost is $34.20. Now we are ready to write an equation. 2 times 9 plus 300 times X equals 34.20, where 2 times 9 is basic fee for 2 months. 300 times X, this is what he has to pay being online in addition, and 34.20 is total cost. Now we have to solve this equation. Let's simplify. 2 times 9 is 18, and because we have to isolate term with X, we have to move 18 from the left to the right, and on the right it will be negative 18. If we are simplifying 34.20 and negative 18, we are getting 16.2. Now we have to solve this equation for X. This is why we have to divide both sides by 300. Use your calculator and you will see that X is 540. Checking. In our original equation, we have to replace X for 540 and check is left side equal to right side? Yes. Now we are ready to write the answer. That Vlad can spend online 540 minutes.